never had a fancy meal before?
No. I have. I'm just like, I haven't actually been to the restaurant yet.
Oh.
I just know that it's perceived as nice. So
We'll try it because I know that was one of the things that I loved when I was in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
When I was with Taylor, we ended up grabbing a meal, and turns out it was like $174 for two people. I left like a $30 tip because I'm a nice guy, you know.
yeah.
Like, but it was. I knew it was different when I got up there, and it's on the 9th floor of a hotel, right? But we get up there, and they're like, it was just the two of us, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do this." So the gal's just like, "Hi, how are you doing today?" We're like, "Good, you know." She's like, "Okay, so typically with appetizers, we like to start with this one, then go to that one." Then I'm like, "Okay, more than one appetizer? It's a fancy restaurant." But it was fantastic.
Dude, I love that shit.
It's good. It's a different taste, though.
Yeah.
Like, some of the stuff, it's either really good or, like, really far-fetched.
That's what makes it fun, though.
You think so?
Yeah.
Some of the stuff, like, we couldn't even pronounce it, and we're looking at it like this is food.
Yeah.
But other than that.
I mean, it keeps it. That's what matters. Like, I feel like at that point, the meal is there for entertainment.
Oh, totally. That's the problem, though, with, like, some restaurants is you go to a restaurant and you're paying, like, how much for a meal just to find out that it's, like, art.
Yep.
That's the thing that kills me is because you have a lot of these places that if they're art, they give you, like, the small portion size.
Yep.
And if it's a small portion size, it's just...
Dude, that's what I like about Franny's Family Restaurant, bro.
Really?
Oh, yeah, dude. Cheap prices, food, greasy as shit, but so much of it and so good. Like the good old family restaurant vibe.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. It's nice, like, up in the UP, too.
Yep.
They'll do the same thing where they'll, like they'll walk in like, "Oh, hon,
Oh,
come
yeah,
over here."
yeah.
And then they will load up your plate. So you're paying for, like, a $10 meal, but it is just full.
Dude, Franny's, they have what's called a lumberjack skillet. And it's like a thick layer of sausage and peppers. 3 eggs on top of it with, what is it? Toast. Like homemade big slices of toast. And then I'm forgetting there's something else. There's something else on top of that yet. And it's like
kidding.
$14.
It's cheap.
I know.
I remember I was up in...
With a drink.
That's a good deal. When I was up in the UP, there was this place, and it was I'm in the center of the room. I didn't notice this, but there was this place where it was this. It's a small restaurant. It's can't think of the name of the town. Really, really out there name. It's one of those truly, like, Midwest names, but we ordered, like, this appetizer, and it was like these cheese-filled breadsticks with, like, pepperoni, and it was just this big, like, a big strudel all the way around.
Yeah.
And it was like $6. Yeah, I'm like, we're doing that, and then we're getting dinner or lunch at the time.
Dude, and it would have been $3 if it wasn't for fucking Biden's America. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. But oh man, that's one of the biggest things is you look at politics and I guess just kick it off. You look at politics and
I don't think you're recording, are you?
yeah,
Oh, you are?
yeah.
I can't tell. It isn't like, is it supposed to move?
Oh yeah. It's got those lights on and that's moving, and yeah, then we got the red.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
trust you.
We're recording.
I don't know this shit. Okay.
Like, okay.
I'm about to get canceled, bro.
So what happened is we are reshooting. I guess I'm going to say this to the cameras for a second. We are reshooting a podcast that we originally shot a month and a half ago. He was going to be my first podcast guest. I've had 5 other guests since then. So that's the reason there was no number 1 podcast, was because I decided to go a different route and we had too many malfunctions and it was trash. So
I don't know, man. That was a fire podcast.
Man, okay, well, we talked about some good stuff, but what happened was every 20 minutes we're like, oh crap, the camera turned off.
Yup.
We're like, oh crap, the audio isn't working, or we're getting, yeah.
I'm out for coffee number 3.
Yeah, exactly. And you were running out of there, and it's like, okay, this is not going to work. And I looked at it after the fact, I'm like, maybe it's salvageable.
Mm-hmm. And then we had mishaps with scheduling.
Oh yeah, because I thought it was the week prior.
Dude, I know.
And I got in touch with you, and I'm like, where the hell are you? It's like half an hour. And you're like, wait, you said next week.
Yeah.
And we were both texting back and forth thinking it was separate weeks.
And at that point, I think I was in, Green Bay, and you're in Wausau, so I'm like 2.5 hours
yeah.
away. Like, this is not happening.
I thought it was great. I was looking at it, I'm like, if I had to have a scheduling mishap with anybody, I'd rather it be you than somebody else. Because, like, I could hit up and be like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Somebody else, it's like, okay, talk to my secretary. We got to book it out another month. You, it's like, yeah, let me see what I got available.
Dude, just wait until I got a secretary. You're gonna have to go through her.
Oh.
Him.
Big
don't know.
deal, huh?
Never know.
Yeah, we should. I was gonna say something, and I'm like, that would come out so wrong with like taken out of context.
Yep. Dude, I'm actually thinking about, just for kicks and giggles, to see if it helps closing rates at all, is creating a second email and pretending I have a secretary.
No kidding.
Like, because think about it, right? Like, if someone's scheduling with a secretary, it's like, oh, this is like a big shot.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I wonder if that
works.
increases.
Like when Under Armour got started, before they got their first major contract, what happened with Under Armour was this big like dealer was like, we want to place an order for like 1,000 or 100,000. Like it was a massive, substantial order at the time for Under Armour, and it was their first big one. The guy went over and faked playing the secretary on the phone, and then hung up or put him on hold, and then transferred the call to get it so it was feeling like a bigger company, so they could actually secure this massive deal. So
That's all you got to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
Play the game. You know what I'm saying?
oh, totally.
Yeah.
100%. That's one of the things that people don't get is like, I don't believe in lying to your clients, but at the same time, there are certain tactics that do work because there's things outside of your control that happen. It sounds a whole lot cooler instead of saying, I'm stuck in the bathroom, to say, I'm in a meeting.
Yep.
Like, but
Yeah. There's some things you got to do.
oh, 100%. So I guess one of the things, just so people have a background on you, you are a marketing professional. You own a marketing firm. You work primarily in the real estate game, and you've been doing this for a while. In my opinion, like I said on our first podcast, I think you're one of the smartest people I've ever met when it comes to SEO.
Thank you.
And I seldomly say that about people, but you've gone down the rabbit hole and you were able to explain everything past the point of my understanding, which kudos to you. But I guess, how did you get started and everything? Give everybody your background.
Okay. We'll start from the beginning when I was 3. You know, as a child, my mother's
I was abused.
maybe.
Oh my gosh.
We're for legal reasons, we're not gonna talk about that.
Yeah, for legal reasons, let's. Yeah.
No, so when I was young, my mother and father are both in networking. So like I was born and raised programming, networking, understand websites, which gives me a huge knack up in SEO. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Am I good with social media? Sure. I have an okay LinkedIn following, I guess. But like,
The fact you looked at LinkedIn as like the social media.
dude, don't even worry about it. Like, it's the go-to. Like, where do all the professionals sit? LinkedIn.
Depends where you look.
Yeah.
Sorry, go for it.
So basically, like, born and raised, programming, networking, all that sort of things. Got into college classes in high school. We'll just say that was a rough time. I mean, that was COVID. Because COVID came my freshman year. Had a bunch of other shit go on at the same time. But basically ended up sleeping with friends, all that sort of stuff. Really got my ass into gear. Friends, college teachers were like, hey, you can do websites. What do websites lead to? Marketing. One thing led to another. Domino. Like most other people.
Yeah.
So websites into marketing. And when you're doing SEO and you have a website background, that becomes your shtick. Obviously.
Yeah. Nice t-shirt.
Yeah, thank you. I have 2. I've been wearing them all week.
Yeah. We're actually in a homeless shelter right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful homeless shelter. Thank you.
Yeah. On the 3rd floor.
Real I comes with central air. What can I
Really?
say? Yeah?
Classy.
Dude, I know.
Oh my gosh. No, man, I think it's cool because, I mean, there's a lot of, the crazy thing is you have a lot of the young people taking over the marketing, which, like you, because you have like when it comes to websites and things, for a lot of younger guys, you can go on, and it's not to bash past generations, but it's something that they don't want to understand. Because it's something they don't understand because they don't want to. But you look at it when it comes to websites and things like that, you can get in very basic, but once you start going on the rabbit hole, that's where it starts to get crazy. And people don't understand that a lot of times, because you can build your own website decent, but to actually build the next one, like you said, the marketing, because I know when I got into it, that was one of the biggest things that I saw was like, how do I put this? It just, I had somebody get in touch with me, like, we want to do some videos. I said, okay. And I'm like, well, you guys also need to do this. Because you go to ask them about the videos and you're like, what are we portraying? Like there's so many subliminal things in a video that you just push in there, and they look at it and they're like, well, we're just gonna be this or that. It's like you have a hot dog stand. Well, what are you? Well, we're a hot dog stand. It's like, no, you're not. Like there's so much other shit there. Like
Nope.
you're like on the move. It's Bob's hot dog stand. Who's Bob? And you start going down the rabbit hole, and some of these people just don't understand it.
It's one of those things where you have to show the front end thing and like not talk about any of the actual stuff that's going on, because otherwise people go like
totally.
they lose their mind.
I look at how many deals I've lost because I sit down and I'm like, let's run through everything.
Yeah.
And it turns into a conversation of there's them sitting there just, I don't get this. I don't want to, because there's a smart, like, I don't get this, like Albert Einstein, but then there's also like the screw this, I'm gone.
Yep. I think that's one of the funniest things that I see a lot in marketing is people are like, oh, I sell this. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I sell websites to someone that I'm pitching. No, I sell the leads that come with the website. So like, there's a fundamental shift there where it's, are you selling the actual product or are you selling the outcome that the product gives you? And there's a nice balance there where you have to like explain how the product gets you there, but you can't overly talk about the product.
Oh, true. And I mean, that's like with anything. It's big in sales. Move the mic up a little bit.
Okay.
But it's like in sales when they have, you want to lead the person to the conclusion, but you don't want to give them the conclusion. Like I look at a great example is, I'll just say it. So when I was working in my past life in pro audio, I still do some work in pro audio, but it was when it was like my primary thing. I used to describe microphones, and I think I said this in our last podcast. It wasn't just a microphone, like, because I'm selling on the phone, so it sounds like this, you know, you're talking. But what happens is you're trying to explain why somebody should get this microphone. And you got to understand the person that's buying that, they've got a podcast like us, which the sound isn't a huge deal. But then you go to something like a song. This person's like poured their heart and soul, whole heart and their soul into the song, even if the song sucks. Like it's still like they look at it as like, this is my experience with whatever. So you're trying to explain like, what does this microphone sound like? And people would always look over at me in my cubicle or something, because I'd say, people would be like, it's smooth. I'm like, it's as smooth as hot fudge dripping off a hot fudge sundae on a hot summer's day. Pictures. And they'd look at it, and exactly, I didn't even have to say that it's the smoothest microphone you've ever laid your eyes upon. You'll be looking at it every time you see that microphone. You're thinking about hot fudge dripping off an ice cream cone, and it's easy.
Dude, in real estate, I was actually going to make a post about that. I was talking to you about PJ's post.
Yeah.
And one of the ones that I was thinking about is I can make like a joke about the PJs, but then on the back end, I was going to do something along the lines of, what would it be like for the client if they were in their PJs on a random Thursday on date night? You know what I'm saying?
In your
like
PJs?
A random Thursday, date night, you're in
Okay.
your PJs. That's the picture that you want to paint for someone when you're showing the house.
You in your PJs on date night?
Well, it was...
I had to. Okay,
It's a
sorry.
good
go for
hook,
it.
man.
Yeah,
It
go for
works,
it.
okay?
Yeah.
Don't judge the hook.
Okay.
No, but like, picture them on how they're going to be. Make them envision what that house is. Exactly what you're doing with the audio. Make them envision what that is. It's the picture. Like, if you look at my VSLs on my website, it's pain point. So let's say we're talking real estate agents and they're looking for leads. I say, they're agents driving around in brand new Ford F-250s, 2024. They have a brand new Rolex. All of their kids got iPads for Christmas. And you're sitting here barely scrapping by. Why? Now they're sitting here like, that other guy could be me. I just need to like figure it out. So it opens this loop, and then you bring the VSL. You explain how they're going to do it. That's what you do. Hook, sell.
No, I agree. Flip the microphone up a little bit.
Even more?
Kind of.
Okay.
So yeah, just loosen it up a little bit like this, and then just, because otherwise this will loosen up right here.
Okay.
So then, because that
This is
way
already
you want to
loose.
like aimed at your mouth.
Yeah, this is already loose.
No, you're doing good. So
Set.
I agree. I think the hook and loop, and that's the biggest thing in sales, is because you got a lot of people who tell somebody till they're blue in the face, like, you need this, it's going to be this. But building out the picture and going with real estate, I know you're talking more realtors, but one of the greatest things I heard from a builder, or I should say my dad, who was a builder, heard from another builder. And he always told me this. He's like, he's like, if you got to sell a house, he's like, the house is unfinished. He said, you just put together the first room. You just paint the first room that you walk into. And he walks through it. Because I'm thinking that's kind of stupid. Like, you're going to look at the first room and be like, okay, what about the rest of it? But no, you have a lot of times, like, think about it. You're walking in there with your wife, girlfriend, spouse, and you walk in, the whole house is completely unfinished except for this one room that you first walk into. You're like, okay, this is awesome. Then you start going to the other rooms. Instead of, why isn't this room done? It's, man, the possibilities. We could do this, we could do that, we could do this. And it changes the conversation from, like you said, building out that dream, which is the greatest way of doing sales or marketing in general, because marketing I look at as another form of sales. I mean, trying to sell somebody, but you're trying to push money at it to sell them as opposed to you getting in front of them and just having a conversation.
On that, wasn't it Alex Hormozy who just said something along the lines of kicking a mic stand? He basically just said something along the lines of marketing is sales one to many. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So if you're a really good salesperson, if you can translate in that to a one-to-many format, you're good at marketing.
I agree.
And vice versa. If you're good at marketing, translate that to a one-on-one, you're good at sales.
And that's the thing is that I wish with marketing, I wish they consulted more salespeople, because the hard part with marketing is the great thing about salespeople and the bad part about a lot of marketers that I see, because I think a lot of them aren't worth their salt at all. And that's why I'm sitting down with you, because I think you're good. So, but I look at a lot of these guys, the marketers, they look at the analytics and like, okay, we can do this. The sales guys understand there's somebody on the other end of there, because they're looking at, they talk to people. You're trying to sell this person, whether it be a Jolly Rancher at a sweet store or a new house in a market. You're trying to sell the person on something. So you're sitting down and you're like, okay, what's the reaction? How are they looking at this? I didn't say that right. If I didn't say that right, how do I say it better? And everything needs to be convincing. You can't have a bad advertisement in your sales pitch. Otherwise, people wouldn't pay attention. And with marketing, the sales thing is like, you have a marketing campaign. One of the biggest things I ask people is, because they're like, well, we're running TV ads, we're running this kind of thing, or we're running that kind of thing. I'm like, do you watch, when's the last time you watched TV or you watch TV ads? I haven't in years. If you don't watch them, how do you expect anybody else to watch them?
Yep.
Or if you don't even like your commercial, or you don't even like your Facebook page, and you wouldn't want to look at it in your spare time, why should somebody else?
Exactly. I think the other thing that a lot of people don't get about sales is or marketing, is the funnel needs to be 100% aligned. Mm-hmm. It can't be like 5% off. Like 5% off is 100% off. Because if you're going through, this is the nice thing that you're pointing out with sales, is if you have one thing wrong, you miss the close. Mm-hmm. When you're on the call, everything is dialed, right? Like to the point, get it. On marketing, it's harder. You can kind of see it in the analytics, but you want to see a straight shot. Every single thing in that alignment needs to go. So I'll give you a good example. The ads course that I'm running for Google for real estate agents, Google Ads. The tagline is legally steal the #1 lead printer in real estate. Mm-hmm. And why is that? It's catchy. It's something that can stay consistent throughout the funnel. So that's what people are buying into. It's one uniform thing that they're guiding towards. Mm-hmm. Whereas like if I'm doing something and I have one page in that funnel that doesn't say that doesn't mention that, it's something along the lines of like, are you looking to spend more time with your family? The entire funnel's off. They stop right there. You will stop seeing leads come through. Like you'll see leads come through, but like it's going to be none compared to what you would have gotten. So it needs to be straight.
I agree. People try to dance around things. And that's one of the reasons that I like a lot of these. I like a lot of the commercials. And I got into shooting commercials. I'm not the greatest videographer in the world, but it's just more the vision of like, okay, here's what we got to say. Here's how we got to do this. But I find it funny. Like we mentioned on our first podcast, the Dr. Squatch. Like Dr. Squatch, he says the soap you're showering with, it's shit. And just kicking that out, okay, it's a very bold claim. And like you said, being straightforward, like that's taking it really straightforward. Mm-hmm. But when you take it that straightforward and then you prove it later on, excuse me, it's enough to get the person in the door to then have the opportunity to start doing all the stuff down the road. Because if you start getting too convoluted, nobody wants to listen to that.
It's talk about like each page needs one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I'm running landing pages for X, we'll say the ads course again. I can talk about you saving time and getting leads. I can talk about you getting a ton more leads. I can talk about the fact that you're no longer going to have to work about Zillow. But all of those need separate funnels. Not like entirely separate funnels, but separate landing pages, separate everything. So that when they're going through, it's uniform. Like if the Dr. Squatch did, your soap is shit, and then did something like, our soap is beautiful. It's like farting rainbows, or like something like that. You can't have those mix and match. Like this isn't some sort of crossword puzzle. It has to be aligned.
You're right, because that's the branding. That's one of the biggest problems with a lot of these places. And one of the things that I think if you can find, you almost need like, it's kind of like a film is a great example, because you have a movie, you've got a producer, you've got a director, you've got somebody that works on the stunts, you got somebody that does all the makeup, and then you got the actors. The director pulls it all together. And with a lot of these marketing initiatives, shall we say, with these different businesses, they bring on somebody for SEO, they bring on a different person for Facebook, they bring on a different person for Instagram, they bring on a different person for Google. So you have 4 different people all sitting down having separate conversations with the owner who doesn't want to do their own marketing or know about it, because that's why they hired it out. They just want other people to market the business. But there's no actual brand, like you said, because you've got 4 people creating a crossword puzzle of things that don't make any sense. And it just doesn't work.
And then they wonder why they're not getting leads.
Exactly.
One of the other things with that is like in real estate, one of my biggest things is everyone will hire a marketing person, and they're just glorified videographers, like 9 times out of 10. And like, I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying
You're
that
right.
like they were literally hired to do the videos, right? Like that's what they were hired to do. They were just kind of thrown on the social media or whatever. So it's like, it's not their element. And so when I'm like, what do I need to know for branding? They just send me a style sheet. And I'm like, no, what do we stand for? What is the branding? And a lot of people, like, that's either not done, like they have no idea what it is, or it was done so long ago, they can find a PDF from 2002.
Totally.
Like,
and you made a good point, though, because I think social media it's most prevalent in with the social media marketers. Because, I mean, yeah, kids have I think kids are in a good position because they have a thorough understanding of how social media works. If they were to just take a look from a third-person perspective and analyze it and be like, okay, so that's why that works. I think they're very good at knowing that. But you have a lot of adults, and I see it's that they don't understand it, and they don't want to understand it. And that, like we talked about at the beginning. But I joined a local chamber of commerce. When I joined them, she's like, well, this other media company just wanted to make sure you guys weren't the same. I'm like, no. So I decided, I'm like, I'm going to look this guy up. And I'm like, okay, he's got a good website. And I looked at his social media packages, and he's like on Facebook. My first package is like $300 and it's posting once a week. My next package is like $1,000 and it's posting 3 or 4 times a week. And then we've got the package that's like $3,000 and we'll post every day or twice a day. And I looked at that, I'm like, this guy's full of shit. Because if you're posting, because the way Facebook looks at it is really simple. If you're throwing a bunch of these out there and you're missing every time, it's kind of like shooting at a shooting range. If you shoot 10 arrows and you only hit, or let's say you shoot 10 arrows at 5 apples and you hit 5 apples, you got a 50%. You're doing pretty good. But then if you're shooting 500 arrows at 5 apples, your rates aren't good. And that's where you look at these Facebook posts. If you're throwing this all out there, Facebook or Google or frankly anybody's going to look at it and say, well, if everybody's passing on 85% of these, it doesn't work. So that's why those guys, they're in business because people don't want to understand social media and they're getting absolutely screwed over.
Dude, it makes me so mad. And I will say one thing, like when I started social media, it was actually one thing I really struggled with was getting that right.
Yeah.
So I think the one thing that remedied it for me is I did quantity and I did quality. So every day I would do a post. Every single day. I didn't miss a beat for the first while. And what it would be is I would take the video and I would do it after like 8 hours. So I would do post in the morning, wait 8 hours, see how it did, see what worked, rinse and repeat. And I just kept doing it and iterating to see what would work. And so then you get the quality with the quantity, but you can't have the quantity without also growing with it.
Oh, totally. But you got to look at the cool thing about that is each of those posts stood on their own. And that's the thing that people don't get is it's also a full-time job. Like all the work that you put into that, you've got time into strategizing, you got time into shooting the content, time into storyboarding the content, and posting the content. That where a lot of times you have some guy that hires it out to some.
Who knows?
He hires it out to like India or Pakistan or the big
Yeah.
ones, we'll just say, and a lot of times they just grab like 2 or 4 pictures that the people took 3-4 years ago, sent them off to the social media marketer, who then sends it off to these guys in Pakistan or India. And then they go in Canva or Adobe and they edit it, make it look good, and they recycle that. But the thing is nobody likes it. It's not enough, like you said, not enough just to post. And it's getting harder because you look at the number of people on social media and YouTube are growing. When I was working in pro audio, I got to sidetrack and say this. There were so many companies, like small companies, that were investing like a couple $100,000 in R&D. Like, at least that's what my guess would be, because you look at the time and everything else. So they're investing that kind of money into R&D, and those are companies that can't lose a couple $100,000. Like, that would tank the business and bankrupt them. Mm-hmm. But they think it's worthwhile enough to invest that much money into content creation. Mm-hmm. So when that started, I was like, yeah, I don't see it. I think this is BS. I think these companies are going to tank it. But I started seeing 1, then 2, then 3, and it just kept going. And what it comes to is, like you said, you have to take the time with the content because it's only getting harder. It's not enough that you can grab an iPhone anymore and pop it on YouTube or Facebook. You have to take that next step because everybody else is, and there's too many people with iPhones. It's oversaturated.
Exactly. Like I'm even thinking about cutting back the podcast because it's becoming so big about quality. Like once a week, I can spend time, I can get it edited, I can do nice thumbnails, I can do all this stuff. But it's not enough. Like,
yeah,
I need more. And I think that's where a lot of people are at of like, how much do you need to spend on one piece of content to make it go? And you're just trying to find that.
It's true.
The supply and demand part.
Correct, because like you said, we taught each other we taught ourselves a lot of what we know. And that's where, like for instance, this whole podcast setup here, if I had to put a price on it, is about $3 or $4 grand. Oh, mine. Yours is maybe worth 1,000, but you're doing more Zoom. So, but I look at it with like this setup, it's like, I think it's a good investment, but we both taught ourselves how to, like for instance, I taught myself how to do the video, how to do the audio. I taught myself how to do the editing, where like you're outsourcing it. So then you're constrained by the cost of each podcast, because every time you do a podcast or you have it clipped up into snippets, you've probably got $20 or $50 a snippet if you're outsourcing it somewhere else. And then you've got how much money into a podcast to have somebody edit it. And then you've got the time that it takes, because where I could run tonight and say, okay, I'm going to grab a Red Bull or something and sit down and go 4 hours straight editing, you're waiting a week or 2.
Yep. Yeah. It's really difficult, especially I'd say it's managing labor, like managing where things are. Like I take podcasts like a week and a half, 2 weeks before I post them. So they're scheduled usually a week ahead of time, because otherwise I run into that issue. That's the other issue with having employees, right, is timelines. So right now, how we work everything is we have ClickUp. I don't know. Are you familiar with ClickUp?
No.
Okay, so just imagine like an internal CRM.
Okay.
Basically a dashboard for everything in the business. And lists of everything we need, assign it to who we need it, all of that. But it's always due the week before we post it. So like if I'm gonna post on Friday, it's due the Monday before.
Yeah.
And it's always like that every single time. Because then we have that leeway of like, oh shit, we're missing something. Go back, fix it, and we don't have all these issues. So you have to have that delay because of labor.
No, I mean, you're right too, in the sense that something could happen. Your video editing guy could get sick, get in a car accident. Heaven forbid. I'm not saying I want this to happen, but something comes up, or you decide you got to go on vacation last minute. You don't know, and then you still got the content going out where you're not kind of sitting at the wheel. So it's like, okay, bunch them up, start to put them out, and then you've got some buffer time.
Yep, exactly. And I would say like that's been one of my biggest problems is with employees and timing and learning how to manage that, because like I'm naturally very good at like big picture vision. This is where we're going, guys. Terrible at micromanaging. Like, dude, I kid you not. I have one guy. He's working for me full time. We exchange texts once a week. We don't even have a meeting. It's a text of, hey, man, I need you to do this week. And he's like, done. Don't even worry about it. Come back the next week. It's done. Everything's perfect. Sent to me in an email. All of that.
No kidding.
It's like, he likes it because he's not micromanaged. He doesn't have anyone on his ass. And I pay him for 40 hours. He gets at least 40, 50 hours worth of work done. He's probably only working 30 hours. But that's just because he can just dial in.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like,
and that's one of the cool things. I mean, I don't know. I think the work from home concept, I don't know. I think we're going to have differing views on that, but
really?
I don't like the work from home. I hate the work from home concept. Can't stand it.
You're wrong. Continue.
I disagree. It's okay. I look at it this way. I think once you have employees, if you're working by yourself in an office, yeah, you can work in your bedroom just the same.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to, I think there's camaraderie in the office that you can't get anywhere else. Also, the bouncing of ideas. You can't really do that digitally because there's a lag, there's a delay.
I think you need the idea guys there. Yes. But I think you can have some outsourced. So I'll give you a good example. My blog post guy, he's not actually in state. He's in Texas. But we sit on Zoom a lot, call a lot. And that would be a lot better in the office because then we could bounce ideas off of each other, all that sort of stuff. But like my outreach guy, the guy that I message once a week, dude, I'm telling you, he wants to be work from home because he's just the type of guy to just get it done. Like no questions asked. It's done. Give me the pay raise end of year. Like I'm happy. So it's all about what are you optimizing for, fundamentally.
That's fair. I think there's some people that can work from home, but I think the majority of people love the concept of it. But then it's like you're sitting at home and you're just kind of sitting there, or something happens and it takes your attention away. But I think one of the things, I don't know, the other thing too, and kind of sidetrack, what I like to do with my office sometimes, and I'll go over and I'll just switch it up. I'll grab my desk, rearrange it, because it's a 3-part desk. I'll grab my desk, rearrange, and I'll reorganize the whole room. Just because I feel like I'm getting stuck. And it'll totally revamp me. And I feel like if you're working from home, there's no kind of change in anything. There's nothing to bring you back. And like I said, if you work well in not having that change, have at it. But I don't think the majority of people are like that.
See, I'm the type of guy where like I need less. Like I need less stuff. Like before my girlfriend was like, hey, you're having a studio, you need to make it look fucking pretty. Like all of this here from like her. She's like, we're going on a shopping spree, give me a budget. I'm like, fine. Like everything. Kid you not, it was that painting right there, that TV, and my desk was against the wall. That was the entire thing.
Kidding.
Mind you, the bed, like for those of you who can't see on camera, the bed is on the floor. Like when I say this thing was white.
It's a bachelor pad.
No, like it's beautiful. Because like there's nothing to distract me. Whereas now I'm like, ooh, pretty candle.
Yeah.
Like my ADHD brain just needs like white walls. Like that's ideal workspace for me.
I had a weird one. I got to say, I get where you're coming from. And I was like that up until about 1.5 years ago. Because I remember I was down visiting some buddies. And something transpired that I'm like, I don't really want to stay here. Normally, I'd sleep in my car because I save on hotels. And it's not that I don't have the money for a hotel. I don't mind sleeping in my car. Like I'll just pop the seat back, take a nap. But I started to get to the point where I'm like, no, I'm sleeping in a bed tonight. So I went down to like the local Hilton or something. I just got a room. And it was the first time in my life that I actually looked at it. I didn't even look at it. It just felt, I'm like, I'm going to do this. And yeah, for better or worse, I guess.
Yeah, mind you, I'm also really young. So like I have that advantage of like I'm malleable. So like sleeping in a car for me is no problem. I won't have back issues the night before, but like I don't know, man. Like when you're starting to reach like I don't know, even late 20s, mid 20s, early 20s, I don't even know, man. Whenever you get back issues, like
I don't even think it's a back issue thing. I think it's more like for me it was just like I'm getting
stiff.
Not getting stiff.
What?
I just thought It's not an adventure no more. I've already slept in my car enough. I'm getting a hotel room.
Okay.
Like I think that's what it was because I agree. Like some people don't, and I say like too much. I agree with that. What you're saying, because yeah, like
Like a
this.
white girl.
Oh my gosh, I caught myself. I was listening back to the podcast and I realized I couldn't bear myself on the first podcast because I was going on like this, like that, and I just was cringing.
Dude, same way.
Yeah.
Like even now, I'll listen back and I'm like, the fuck. There are some weird verbal tics in there. But like, it's gotten way better. Like as you do more podcasts, you get more. Like, fuck, I'm almost on 35 now. I
Really?
feel old.
Dang.
I know.
35 podcasts.
I know. I'm old.
You got to do some. You got to do some in person ones. You've had a couple.
I have done in person.
And that's one of the things we've been talking about is building out some sort of podcast space for you. But
dude, I still think the one with a house would be really cool. That was actually from the podcast guest today. He came up with that.
Oh,
Ellis.
Do you want to talk about that idea, or you want to?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, this is a cool idea.
Take a realtor, right? We're gonna interview him for whatever, and we're gonna have him on the podcast. But then we take one of their luxury listings or one of their nice houses, and we do the podcast there. Like that would be cherry on top.
Because that's a great way to talk about a house, and that's one of the cool things is people nowadays want uncensored content. Like I'm not talking about porn or anything like that.
Whoa,
I'm talking about
keep this PG-13.
yeah,
man.
no.
Come on.
I'm talking people want uncensored
Christ.
content where people want people honest, and that's the reason people are getting away from mainstream media. The reason people are getting away from kind of commercials. Like think about the last time you actually watched a commercial and convinced you to buy something. Like people,
Last week.
of course, yeah. Yeah, you're sitting with the phone. Call 715-84. Yeah, let's order. But no, you have a lot of people that want that. That's why podcasts are big because you can actually have a conversation, and we're gonna slip up and say things we didn't mean to say because it's ain't a scripted interview. That there's certain things that we're gonna be like, man, I wish I didn't say that, but it's real. It's who we are because you can't keep up a facade for 2 hours.
I mean, there's times for processed and there's times for non-processed. Like I feel like shorts or like reels or TikTok or whatever, that's
totally.
for the processed shit. When you're here for like 2 hours, like you said, we're here for unfiltered, raw, good stuff. That's why Joe Rogan's so massive.
So we were talking about a taboo subject in our break that we can't talk about because we get banned on YouTube. But
Pretty fast.
yeah, I think that'd be a cool podcast idea though.
Yeah, what are the other ones? What are the other video platforms? Vimeo? We can put it on there.
Vimeo's great for like cinematographers and like guys that want to make like films.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Other than that, because it's high quality, but there's no way for like people to actually get content out there. There's like no search function,
Yeah.
like for people to just discover content.
I know. I use it on websites because it looks prettier than the YouTube embed.
Oh, big time! YouTube
Like, that's the only reason.
Oh yeah, YouTube compresses all their video and everything. I like to just embed, or not even embed. I like to just have the videos on the website hosted by the people. But the only problem with that is like, because like I like backgrounds and stuff, but for a video, you're spot on with Vimeo.
Dude, so good. I'm trying to right now on my current website it's YouTube only because the Vimeo embed is broken right now. With how it's like I still have to bug it out, but I just haven't had time.
What do you? Oh, you're a WordPress guy, right?
My website is actually Webflow.
Really? I don't know. I love Squarespace.
Okay, it's nice, but for SEO purposes, WordPress takes the cake. Like hands, like it's not even a contest.
That's fair. The only problem though is like I see with WordPress websites, because for people that don't understand it, there's so many different extensions that happen. Like for WordPress site to work, you're grabbing this app, you're grabbing that app, you're grabbing this thing. So you're pulling in all these things together, where a lot of these ones are more all-in-one packages that they manage all the different aspects. And that's one of the biggest things I see with a WordPress site, because I just had somebody approach me and they're like, hey, it's going to cost us this much to rebuild our website. We want to go with you. And I'm like, so why does your website need to be rebuilt? And you look at it, it's because they coded all this stuff for WordPress. But then what happened is the coding became outdated. And you can see like fixes on their website where there's like code showing, but then it's just like blurred over with like roughly with like a rectangle. And
With WordPress, you need to know what you're doing and you need to have ongoing support.
yes,
Like,
big time.
period, end of story. Because if you do anything else, if you have no idea what you're doing when it comes to WordPress, things are bound to break within the next like 5 years.
Totally.
Like, And the other thing is, don't get me wrong, there are some instances where WordPress can make sense to do it yourself, but you need to be like the type of person who wants to learn.
Oh yeah, and that's a lot of work for people.
Yeah.
I said check, make sure the camera's still rolling.
I think it's recording.
Yeah, we got the red light. Oh, I think there's a lot of stuff though. I guess one of the other things I want to talk to you about, explain SEO to everybody, because that's a very mystical topic that people hear those 3 letters and they think, ooh.
Optimizing for search engines?
Yeah.
No. Basically, just like if you think of Google, it'd be like ranking on the top of Google. If you think of Google Maps, like when you search for something, ranking for that. When you look something up, it's optimizing for showing up when people search. That's all it is. So if I'm on Google and I say, we'll say real estate because that's primarily what I'm in. Real estate agent in Wausau, Wisconsin. If you look that up, SEO, my job, is to make sure you rank in as high as possible for that. So if you look at real estate agent and like you want my client to be 1, 2, or 3, ideally.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to describe it. Otherwise, we run into like, oh, we're doing this in the back end and this and this and this and this. And we can get into some of that, but like...
People don't understand it though. I mean, the whole purpose of SEO is literally Google wants to match the right person with the right website or solution. You search something saying, what's the best apple pie recipe? They want to find you the best apple pie recipe. That's it. And that's all SEO is doing, is fine-tuning that.
Exactly. That's all it is. Like it's spoon feeding Google what you are is really what it is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes into that. I'm not gonna lie, but the reason there's a lot that goes into that is because there's a lot of people who use it and abuse the system. So.
Really? How do they abuse it?
So back in the good old days of SEO. Good old days.
Good old days.
Good old days.
Like Beepers and
Wild West. Early 2000. No, like whenever, like early Google.
Okay.
What people would do is they would take white text and they would do what's called keyword stuffing. So make that page white, and you could put at the top like all of your keywords in like 1-point font, and you would rank for all those keywords because it's just 1,000 times on your page. So there's like little things like that where people could abuse.
Oh yeah, keywords, just to clarify, they're words on a website that will link to Google, because every word you put on a website...
It's an indicator to Google. So a keyword is like something you'd search. It's like realtors and X is a keyword. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Important word. Tell Google what do.
Yeah, but you were saying, so the Wild West...
Yeah, wild. Dude, those... I didn't do a whole lot of SEO in those days. I'm not going to lie to you. But I've heard some wild stories of like people just abusing the system. Like, think about it. If you could just keyword stuff, right? You could be like hot potato gun. Then you could say hot potato gun 1,000 times and you could outrank Amazon. And it's like, what is going on?
Oh, yeah.
Why is some random guy with hot potatoes doing it? But they ended up introducing something called domain authority. It's like this whole woo-foo, like, you can kind of guess it with a bunch of the softwares, but it's essentially how trusted is your site from Google. It's your authority to Google. And so that's minimized a lot of that.
And a great example of that is you've got that one friend in your friend group that you, if they tell you something, you can trust it. And then, like, imagine if you heard everything and just said, okay, it's true. Domain authority says, or Google's domain authority says, that guy's been wrong 80% of the time. We don't like him. We're not going to recommend him. So his opinion, if he came to you and said, Susie's making out with Bobby, you're probably not going to believe him.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. And like how it's set up is backlinks. So when links from other sites link to your site, that's like a vouch. That's like a friend vouching for a friend. And that's primarily how domain authority works. And like if you can get a really high domain authority, you can just rank on basically anything. You can just say, I want to rank for this keyword, put it in the title and you rank instantly if you have like 99. But the other thing is the only websites that have super high authority are like New York Times, New York Post, or like, I don't know, other news sites.
Forbes, one of their big things is they reached out to me and they're like, we want you to be this or that. And it's going to cost you 10, 12 grand a year, but you're going to be on our thing and you're going to be able to benefit from the SEO. No, it's up to you if you think it's a benefit or not.
I think it definitely is, especially from bigger sites. Depending on the dollar amount, like pay a lot of money for backlinks.
Yeah.
Like okay, here's the thing. This is an interesting like contested thing in SEO is backlinks. You can get them organically. People naturally giving you links.
Backlinks. Just clarify for people.
It's a link from someone else's site to your site.
Yep.
That's
for
what
any
a backlink
reason.
is. Yeah, for any reason.
Okay.
And you can get backlinks naturally. Don't get me wrong. But especially in the early days, if you don't even rank on Google, if you have no links from any other sites, you need to pay for backlinks. I wouldn't say like you need to, but like you really should.
Yeah.
Because it'll get you to the point where you can now start getting organic backlinks. And the other thing is you have to be really careful with ones you pay for because there are a lot of spammy links and Google will deduct you for that. So you need to be careful.
And that's where there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of the marketing themselves for their businesses. What are your thoughts on backlinks? How do people get good backlinks instead of paying somebody $5 a month for backlinks? Like
If someone's charging you $5 a month for backlinks, you have a problem.
even a couple $100 a month for backlinks.
Yeah.
But for what you're talking about though, how does somebody naturally get backlinks? Like what's your thing for it?
My go-to is writing blog posts, actually. So I write really good blog posts, like super niche blog posts that people would reference. So I'll give you a really good example of one locally. Stevens Point. The Stevens Point area has a bunch of neighborhoods. And a search that people look for often is neighborhoods near Stevens Point. Best places to live near Stevens Point. So we write an article for that. And then as people are researching the area, maybe a mom and pop shop is writing a blog about it, maybe the news is doing research on it, a lot of these sites will just give you a backlink for being a resource. And so we're just trying to be that resource.
That's smart. So then how would you recommend people go about getting backlinks that don't have a knowledge on? Because when you're writing that, there's some knowledge that goes into it. You're using some AI for writing a lot of people will use AI.
Yeah, that's actually another contested thing. AI. Yeah, that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
We'll keep going on the backlinks. Like, how would you go about like?
How do you get backlinks? You build yourself a website. You want to get backlinks.
I would say the easiest ones. 9 times out of 10 for local businesses, you don't need a lot. Real estate's a little bit different, just because people have a bigger marketing budget. But I would say for a vast majority of businesses, your local chamber of commerce, networking events, that sort of stuff, being active in the community, donating, 9 times out of 10, you'll get good backlinks out of that. Like I'd say that's the easiest way. And most people don't need more than that.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I know I saw an uptick in website traffic naturally to say that the backlinks work, because a lot of people, they hear the keywords with SEO, but keywords are starting to they're not as effective as backlinks now, which I love, because one of the biggest problems with the website is you got all this bullshit on there that nobody gives a shit about. And that's one of the things that bothers me as I look at a lot of these websites, and these guys will optimize it for keywords. So there's a bunch of writing, but it takes away and dilutes the actual essence of what they want to say.
The other thing with blog posts is they need to be to the point. Like you can have a 1,000-word article, but if it's not to the point, it's not going to rank. Like it's that simple. So you need to write a good quality article.
So do you let AI help you, or would you recommend that to somebody?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So
let's fight.
SEO AI is a really interesting one. So AI right now, at least anecdotally from what I could tell, AI was giving you slightly worse results than handwritten. However, if you're doing handwritten edited with AI, I find you get the best results. So I think there's a nice blend there, and it's really finding what works best for you.
But I think that comes to the larger point with AI. It's more of it's a tool. It's not a employee. It's not going to replace somebody. Because I know I was talking to a guy in a plane, and he was going to some big Microsoft conference. Really smart guy. He was a software developer out of New York. But I was talking with the guy in the plane. Super awesome guy. He starts saying, I said, so what's your take on AI? I said, I work in marketing. I said, but I don't personally use AI, just to clarify. I don't think it's to the point that I trust it yet. But I said, what's your take on it? He's like, well, it's not really that powerful. I said, why? He's like, because you have the quantum computing. You need such a high end computer. That's the reason they can't grab memories or things like that yet, is because there's so much storage up here. Every time you look, you're generating such high quality video, audio, pictures, everything else, memories, that there's so much storage. But when you look at that, they don't have enough processing power to really accurately go after everything. So that's why AI isn't really that good.
The other thing with AI that's really interesting is how it generates. So, are you familiar with how AI generates?
Like shit.
Okay. Okay. So I'll give you a really, really watered down one.
Okay.
AI goes word by word, and it goes, what is the best guessed word that's next? And then it goes best guessed next word, and it just keeps iterating. And so that's why it's like it almost seems formal. It almost seems like it's generating like quality stuff because it's going word by word, but that's almost an illusion. Like it's not coherent. It's not a full thought before it's on paper.
Makes sense. I think people you can definitely tell when stuff's AI generated. Like, there's a brand, I like their products. I think the owner's kind of a tool. I'm not going to say the brand, though, because I still have connections to said brand. I don't do any work for them. They're not a client of mine, but I have connections to them. But I think the owner's a tool, so it doesn't surprise me that he did this. They went over, they did a huge product release that was a big product. Like, it was a successful product that would have taken off. All their content regarding this product, down to the user's manual, was all AI generated. Like, all the marketing material. So everybody in forums online were like, this is a cool product, but this isn't telling us anything about it, because it's not to the point yet that it could connect the dots that these 3 letters or these 3 numbers actually correlate to a certain design or a certain, they kind of pay tribute to something. They looked at it as, this is futuristic, it's this and that, and they published this in all their marketing material that created so much confusion in the marketplace. And that use of AI actually tanked their product launch.
Yeah. It's a super useful tool. Like that's all it really is. I mean, we can contest like it's going to change the world. Sure. I don't think it's there yet. I think it's like the other thing that's really good for on kind of the search engine is searching. So it's really good at finding data and like guessing what you're looking for. Does it still have illusions? Does it still like daydream a lot? Yes, of course. It still needs bugs, but I think there's a lot of potential in that realm. I don't know how much it's going to take over our writers. I think it's just going to take the ones that we have and make them 1,000 times more powerful.
I agree. I mean, I look at it with websites. That's one of the big things. I had a buddy who's like, yeah, did you know AI could build you a full website? You just put it into WordPress? I'm like, okay. And I looked at the websites it was generating, and they were so broken because, like you said, they're trying to guess what's next, and they're not able to see the full picture. But I look at if you're putting in like a line of code or something, and you're like, why is this broken? And instead of going through 80 lines of code to try to figure out the problem, you could put it in there and be like, find me the problem. Perfect. But yeah, AI, I don't think you can tell when people rely on it.
Yeah, no, you can tell. I think that's one thing that I use a lot. I use AI primarily for grammar, actually. Not really content or anything.
He failed the 2nd grade, never graduated high school.
Oh, 100%, bro. Dude, my English, worst the entire time.
Really?
But, like, here's what's so funny about that, right? Now I write blogs for a living.
Imagine that.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not the best writer in the world, but I think that's also what makes me a good writer.
Yeah.
Is because I come off as more authentic. Like I speak exactly how I write. And so people feel that human connection when they read.
I can see that. I think that's the same thing with a lot of video stuff, because I see a lot of these guys that write scripts. It's like, oh, we're out in the woods. Yes. You would have said yeah. You wouldn't have said yes. What do you think about this big deer?
Bear?
Yeah. you wouldn't say anything like that. And it's like, you look at the little nuances. Yeah, you're 100% spot on, because writers will do it in a certain way. And if they're a good writer, they'll be able to kind of jump in the shoes. But most writers that write, at least in my opinion, they don't do a convincing job.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
I agree. I think it's really good at doing like stylistic changes though too. That's the other thing that I think AI is good at. Like if I give it something and I'm like, put it in this style, it can do that. But it can't like write its own thing. It has to have the full picture and then modify the full picture.
And that's one of the big things. Like you have it generate an image or something. Images suck. because if you have it to try to generate something from nothing, it can't do it. It's like glitching out trying to build something. But let's say like Adobe's generative fill, which is a great example because what it'll do is, let's say you've used it, I'm sure. It's got a forest background and you're like, I don't want a forest background. You take a picture out in the woods and you're like, I want it to look like it's in the city. That kind of stuff is great because it can help you blend. It's more of a tool, but it's not going from scratch to say, okay, build me out a red building with blue windows with a yellow door. That kind of thing, it'll look at and just fumble the ball.
Is really, really good at background images, is what I'll say. Like I used it on websites where like images are just short, and I'm like, just fill the extra 100 pixels, please.
Yeah,
Like, it's perfect for that.
exactly.
Yeah, it's a contested one right now, dude.
But people don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like everybody, like you said, it's contested because a lot of people wanted to do their jobs, but then those people end up getting fired. And you look at the other side of that.
I have a couple clients who wrote their entire About Us page in AI, and I'm like, can we please change this? And they're like, no, this is what I want. I'm like, okay.
That is bullshit.
Yep.
If I had a client that did that, I'd sit down with them and say, I'm dropping you as a client.
Dude, here's the thing. I also don't care.
Yeah, but it's like the hard part, though, is what people don't understand is as a marketer.
Oh, yeah. No. Okay, don't get me wrong.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, as a marketer for branding, I hate it. Like, passionately hate that. But I also, with what I'm doing, because I'm just bringing in the leads, as long as I'm bringing in the leads, it doesn't matter for me.
Oh, true. But the hard part, though, is, and that's the cool thing, is when you sell per lead, it's on the client to have their crap together and actually do stuff in a certain manner that's going to matter. The hard part for a lot of marketers, though, is they market something, and I've turned away clients before, and I've had clients turn me down because I'm like, I can't market this event or this promotion or something, or even your business, because it's not hitting all these check boxes that when you market it, kind of like when you get that lead, you sell them the lead. It's up to them what they do with that afterwards, because you brought them a qualified lead who's somebody that's looking to buy. It's not some BS lead.
Yeah.
But then when you have like an AI generated About Us page, you're shooting yourself in the foot because the client is going to go read that About Us page to be like, okay, I'm trying to figure out what realtor I want to work with or what banker. And some of these are ongoing relationships. It's somebody that you're in the emotional trenches with them. Sometimes it's like, okay, I want a burger. I don't care if the guy's great, if he's bad, if he's racist. I don't know. Like, you don't care what the guy is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he makes a good burger and you're just going to eat the burger, regardless of any peripherals. But when you look at with marketing, or when you look at like an About Us page, you're telling your clients a bunch of BS and they're understanding that it's a bunch of BS. It's not from the heart. Like I looked at a potential client's website earlier, and their About Us page has a picture of a model like that they got from a stock image.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's like I could see it if you're like doing modeling or you want to look awesome or you're trying to catfish somebody, like a good looking smoking chick on a hot date. Anything shy of that, come on. But it's just not authentic, and that's the problem with that.
Yeah, authenticity is a big thing.
But you got to have your shit together if you're bringing a marketing person in. That's one of the cool things that we talk about behind the scenes is you bring these people clients, and then the execution and the follow through is where it totally fumbles the ball. Then you're the guy to blame because you're the marketer.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I mean, there's so many other things. And that's the reason that a lot of my clients who do a lot of the business consulting or a lot of the branding is because we get to say, okay, let's refine all the processes to make sure that when you get these clients from the marketing efforts, you can accurately take care of them, bring them in, and you can get them sold.
That's actually one of the biggest things I'm facing right now. Right, fundamentally is like,
Really?
I can bring in a ton of leads. Like I can print leads all day for real estate, but you need to be able to close them. And people like I'm not saying this again with real estate agents, but like a lot of real estate agents don't like they've never learned how to close like a cold lead unless it's like a cold call or something.
Yeah.
Where you already have them on the phone. Like you need to build value first. And so one of the things that I'm doing with a lot of the brokerages is like we need to like take a step back and go, okay, if I'm searching for houses, I submitted my name, I submitted my email, I submitted my number. why am I not responding to you? Like, why are they not?
Just to clarify for everybody that understands the importance, it's one thing to put your name in a hat. It's a whole other thing for somebody to take the time to actually fill it out with maybe the kind of house they're looking for, or even their email and their phone number.
Well, here's the other thing though. So for buyers leads, if they're searching on the website, they click on a house and they want to look at it, they submit their name, their email, and their phone number. That's what they do when they get in and they get access. And so how do we get someone from they submitted that, we have their contact info, to buying? That's the trick that we're teaching them. So real estate agents, this is really, really important. Loom. Loom.
He's talking
Period.
to the
End
camera
of
now.
story.
It's real important.
Loom. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, loom, please. Because,
It's a power move right there.
dude, honestly, no, loom is so good. I'm telling you. Because if you send this video of your face in the corner and you looking at the property going, dude, don't know if this is a good fit from you, saw whatever, I don't know what you're looking for. This would be perfect for like a family with 3. Again, I don't know if that's you. Can I buy you a cup of coffee? Let's figure out what's good for you. I can't show you anything until you do a buyer's agreement or whatever. Just let me buy you coffee and help you. Dude, like, who's going to say no to that?
Exactly.
Like, you need to have a offer to meet that is so good.
And you need to have
No
a
one's
hook.
going to say no.
Because, and I shouldn't, wrong phrase. You need to have something more. You need to be able to pull them. You need to have a little bit of line. And that's the problem with a lot of people is they're like, okay, here's the price or here's the property. No, you have to have them work for it a little bit so they feel invested. Like one of the things I told you when we first chatted and had Mexican food, I told you, I said, I never give out a quote over the phone, or I never send out a quote. I always give a quote over the phone or in person, because that way you get the chance to build a rapport, set yourself apart, because everybody will look at a price and everybody will go through the windows and window shop, but it's a whole other thing to say, okay, well, you can't afford $2,000. Let's see what we can do for $1,000. And with you, that was one of the big things, like what you just said, makes so much sense because you're having the opportunity to build a relationship with the person. Because realtors are really weird people. I'm going to say that personally, and I'm not going to show anything. This is my personal opinion, not his. Realtors are weird people. They're very fake people.
Don't cancel me.
Yeah. Realtors are very weird and
Please, I need to be paid.
yeah. Okay, fair enough. But you look at a lot of them. I'm going to say this in a very PC way for you. You're welcome. You have realtors, and when there's a good realtor, everybody recommends them to mom, dad, brother, sister, cousins, friends, neighbors, uncles, everything. But everybody has a bad realtor story. Every single person. And that's where if you can be a good realtor and actually be honest with people, like he said, buying them, taking them out to a cup of coffee, like that kind of stuff works great because that goes to a larger thing of you set yourself apart in the industry. Like I told an insurance agent, he still hasn't done it. I'm not going to say his name, but I criticize him for it a little bit because he's cheap with everything. But he ends up, I told him, I said, take insurance. I said, think about being honest with insurance. I said, a lot of these insurance companies, he's like, they raise the premiums every time. He's like, they don't need to. They do it because they want more money. So every 2 to 3 years, you're supposed to switch to a different insurance company because they'll up your rates just because they can every month or every couple months. They'll just kind of knock it up. And next thing you know, you started out paying $300. Now you're paying $600. But with him, he's like, I'm honest. He's like, if I don't do it if I don't have to. If I have to, I let him know. And I said right there, you set yourself apart in the industry. And when it comes to a realtor, if you can genuinely sit down and have a conversation with somebody and just be normal, like there's a guy I met on a flight. He's a realtor up in the UP. I forget where.
Marinette?
No.
Marquette?
No. Marinette? Nah. It's somewhere up in there.
Okay.
But he was talking to me, and cool dude. And I'm like, and this guy's actually getting some decent business. He's not even trying that hard. But it's just because he set himself apart in the place instead of being this guy that's like this. Like, I'm a realtor. I'm going to sell you everything. He's just like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, let's take a look at the house.
The best realtors are the ones that aren't the realtors.
Yes.
They're the people. Like,
Same with the salesman.
Dude, it's the soccer moms. If you're a soccer mom and then you transition to being a realtor, dude, it's game over. I am telling you. I have clients where they're like, yeah, my team needs leads, but like, I was a soccer mom for 20 years. I've never needed leads. And you're like, you know the entire town. How are they supposed to get leads?
And by soccer mom, he just means someone who's they've got kids that are on all the same soccer teams and everything else.
Dude.
They've networked with so many people, and they're just nice. They got along with people. They just wanted to.
Like Nate with Next Home Partners, dude. He was coaching his, I don't know if it was Spash or Rapids or something. He was coaching for a bunch of his kids' sports teams. And he was like, yeah, I was like a part-time realtor, but I was making full-time income. He never had to prospect because people would just come to him. They're like, you're a realtor? Oh, can you just like show the house? And like they're growing families. So it's perfect.
Totally. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. And like people don't like being sold. They hate it. And that's where you have these guys that come in and are like, I'm going to make you $1 million. I'm going to do this. I mean, that's great for some guys. Some people like that. But the majority of people, like when I was doing sales and I was talking to at least 30 clients a day, a lot of it was just having conversations and not calling them up and being like, well, let's do this and let's do that. It was like, oh, you live on a lake? You ever go fishing? What kind of fish do you get in there? I don't personally fish. They do. And it turned into a conversation. At the end of that conversation, I'm like, okay, I want to spend $3,000 with you.
Yeah.
Because that's what it comes down to, because you're a real person and everyone else is like, well, you could do this and you should think about that. People don't want that. People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Oh my God, dude, that's so overset in real estate. Dude, every single realtor says that. It's true though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's true. So you can't not say it. No. Yeah, 100%. I think that's the other thing is buying from stories. So a lot of people buy from me not because like we had a good conversation like that. We can skip a lot of that.
Yeah.
But because like in my emails, it paints a story, like it paints a picture of me. And so typically like when I send out the emails, all the onboarding, like all that sort of stuff, it's you're buying from a scrappy college kid who learned how to do something and get a ton of leads just on an offhand. And he's formulated it. Like that is exactly what you see. Like even though I'm not a college kid, like I still portray that young, like ambitious because it creates this feeling of like, we're going to go with him. You know what I'm saying?
And let me say, people like the underdog. So, I mean, that's not a bad way to go. It depends where you portray. Like, I don't personally do that, but it works for you.
It works phenomenally. Like I've had clients who are like, I wouldn't have bought from you if you weren't upfront with that and like, this is what I've done for so-and-so. This is how we're going to do it for you. Like, let's make this work. Let's work together.
And that's one of the problems with people. A lot of people will, how do I put this nicely? There's a lot of people that don't want to be the underdog. And there's a lot of people that say, yeah, I'm just the shit. And
there's a huge advantage to being the underdog.
Totally. Everybody wants the underdog to succeed. You look at every movie ever. Somebody doesn't sit there and be like, we're cheering on Goliath. No, they're like, we're cheering on David, this 5-foot kid against a 20-foot tall giant. Like, that's what people want. And people just don't portray themselves as such, which I think goes to their disadvantage a lot of times. Because you sit in there and because you don't want to seem needy, but you're not needy.
Like, look at the luxury brands too. That's what's really funny is all of the luxury brands, like, they don't even portray this, like, I'm better than you. They portray, like, just gonna relax. It's calm. It's the beach. Like, they don't portray that Goliath. They don't portray David either. They portray something else because they know they lose in that situation.
Totally. And you made a good point because you don't want to be the big bad. You made a great point. It's kind of like when we first talked, that Payless shoe thing. I told you about that the first time. So essentially Payless, what they did was so there was a high-end fantasy brand that went out of business. I forget where it was in the world. It was a mall. They went out of business in the mall. So Payless ended up buying the spot inside the mall or renting it. And they opened up a new brand called Paylessy. And Paylessy sold the Payless shoes that were like $25 for like 500, 800. And people were walking in there. They invited these influencers and they had a line out the door on their first day open. Everyone's like, these are the best shoes I've ever worn in my life. they're amazing. And that goes to show the power of branding because these people were overpaying for shoes by like $400, $500 when they could have bought them for like cost of a McDonald's Happy Meal.
Yep. I think that's the funniest thing is like marketing, watching people like, I'll pay for the brand, I'll pay for the brand. And like the problem is now that I see it, I cannot unsee it, and now I'm cheap as shit. like I'll look at, I don't know, name toilet paper brand here, and I'll just grab the Walmart one. Like I know it's the same thing at this point.
Oh, totally.
It's like Grey Goose vodka and Costco vodka. It's the same thing. Costco vodka's half the price though.
And if you
Pro
don't
tip.
believe us, look at, you walk into a mall in somewhere, and it's like an outdoor mall, or you go into any mall, and there's a, let's go like a Levi's store. There's nobody in there. But with how high the rents are in malls, a couple grand a month in some places even more. They're paying $3,000 to $6,000 a month, and there's nobody in the store. Think about that. It might be a power move on the company's part, but a lot of it's because the margins are so great.
Yep, it's perception, fundamentally. Like, it's 95% of what branding is.
Exactly.
That's a whole different discussion too of like how do you brand yourself.
We should do a whole video on that.
We should.
That'd be a whole course.
3 hours, be longer than mine.
We'll do it 2 hours, 1 minute.
Harsh, man, harsh. Yeah, no, I think mine's technically like an hour and 58 minutes or something.
Technically.
Yeah, it's 2 hours.
Nah. But yeah, I don't know. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think branding's one of the, just to kind of, because we talked about a lot, and I think you gotta.
I audit so many real estate agents on branding.
What's up?
So many real estate agents I audit on their branding. Because, okay, here's a real kicker with real estate. Every agent has their own business. So you have a team, and under the team, you have 5 businesses. And then in each agent, they have like a rental business sometimes, and they have like, oh, we're doing gardening, or we're doing painting or something. So many different businesses. It's like herding cats to get the brand right. Food for thought.
Interesting.
Yep.
It's kind of smart, though. Supplement your real estate income and create something that's separate from it, but still works in tandem with it.
Dude, there's tax advantages to it. Did you know that?
No.
There's tax advantages to being an investor if you're a real estate agent.
I did not know this.
Oh, yeah. You ever wonder why so many real estate agents also have rental properties? That's why. Because, so think about it this way. I don't remember. It's very loosey-goosey, so if I got something wrong, it's not my fault. I swear.
He's not a lawyer, and we're both not accountants.
Yep. So for legal reasons, I'm wrong. But basically, there's tax advantages. So most realtors are 1099 by the company or a brokerage, and in the brokerage, you just have fees. So you pay X amount, whatever, yada yada yada. And so if you make 60,000, no, we'll say 90,000, right?
Okay.
In top line revenue. What you can do is you can say, okay, I only want to be taxed on 30% of this. So we're going to take the other, whatever's left over. We'll say you have 60% margins because it's a service business. Take the 30% and we put that in rental properties. And because it's in the same LLC with your real estate business is a tax write-off because it's the same business.
You're reinvesting. The only problem is if you get rid of the property within a year or 2, I think it's a year, you have capital gain. Is it a year or 2? I don't remember. But regardless, you get capital gains.
But that's where you cash out refi and then you
100%.
write off against
And that's
it.
where a lot of these investment properties, when you look at the guys that are getting into real estate as far as the rentals, what they do is they hopscotch because they're doing one property, they'll buy another property, they'll buy another property. Because if you pay off the property, you get hit with a boatload of taxes. So it makes more sense, and you make the same amount of money or even more buying a new property than you do grabbing the old property and paying it off so you have straight cash coming in.
Exactly. Like you don't want to be stuck with bills like that. You want to minimize your tax burden as much as possible, especially in business too. Like that's why I bought a new laptop. So I have another one over there. I'm buying a new phone, or was going to buy a new phone.
Oh yeah, expense things through the business. And there's a lot of things you can expense, like a vehicle, for instance. You can't expense one. You have to have a separate personal car, but you can expense a second vehicle as a work vehicle. And the IRS will come banging on your door. Now they've got guns, so they might come pounding down your door.
Dude, if they come in here, it's all in office. Like the bed's going in the closet.
Did you hear about the IRS when they first got guns? It was out in Arizona or whatever. One of them died on the
No.
range.
Dude, who gave the okay, to be fair, who gave the IRS agents guns? Like, y'all are just CPAs.
Yeah.
Like, no offense.
Oh, but they took him out for target practice at a range, and somebody got shot and died.
That's why we can't have nice things. They need to come. Was it Texas or like where?
It was Arizona.
Dude, that's your problem. Move to Texas and it wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah. You would have chalked it up to like a bad day or something.
Just a flesh wound.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. There was one other thing I was going to ask you about, and I don't remember what it was. I don't remember,
Okay.
but
Is it my sexy beard?
that's definitely it. Yeah.
Okay. I can't grow a beard yet.
Really?
I don't know testosterone apparently.
You're a young kid. You're smart. You're a little
It's patchy.
cocky, but I think you're a smart kid, and I think you've got a lot of potential. I think some of
Thank
your
you.
ideas are messed up, but
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
like when
We're
it comes,
working on the cocky part. We're working on that.
Yeah.
I gotta beat myself over the head a
I
little
gotta
bit.
say, you the hard part though is when you're that young, you have a lot of people that tell you that you don't know this, you don't know that, and you kind of have to stand up for yourself so you can come off as cocky.
The other problem with that is like, as you start seeing success with it, like the cocky comes, and like that's one thing that I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that I routinely tell myself, like, shut the fuck up.
But the hard part though is you know what you're doing, and you get results. That's one thing. When I first met you, I'm like, this kid, and then you started sitting down and talking to me about the stuff, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you're still cocky, but you know exactly what you're talking about, and better than anybody else I've ever met that does it for a living and is maybe twice your age. You're running circles around them.
That's one thing that I find so funny, dude. I'm really good at SEO, but like fuck all when it comes to anything else. Like,
I know.
Like, managing a team, not a clue. I kid you not. I'm just good at that. And so my thing is like, how can you levy in on that and then outsource as much of the rest as possible?
True, but I mean, give yourself a little bit of a break because you've been researching SEO like down to your podcast. Your podcast doesn't have that many views, and I looked at it and I'm like, okay, he's got 36 episodes in a podcast, 35, 36?
36, I think.
36 into a podcast, but they're not getting that many views. And then you're like, oh, I use it for SEO purposes. It's here and there. And I'm like, holy crap, you went down the rabbit hole. But you spent time researching this, and you've only started managing a team over the last year or two. So, I mean, give yourself some grace. I think
I think it'll be fun. It'll be a fun year.
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to this year.
But you're learning a lot.
Yeah. Dude, the goal this year is $500,000 in revenue.
$500,000?
$500,000. I think we got it. I think if we
$500,000's your
lock
goal.
in, I think we'll get it.
Good for you.
Yeah. I'm doing good. I'll be, if I keep pace with where I'm at, I'll be at $250,000. But if I do, if I keep the same clientele I have right now, I'll be at $250,000.
Yep.
But if I grow, I think I can half.
Really?
That's the goal. Fingers crossed. And that's like completely blowing it out of the park. But we're gonna hammer in right now.
That's awesome. But you work your ass off. I mean,
I have
for
a
people that
problem.
want to say, yeah, he's just sitting down collecting a paycheck. No, you, like even scheduling the podcast the first couple times, this was the only day that I've ever known you to have a day off.
Dude,
Kind of.
today wasn't even my day off. No, I kid you not. I was taking, like, when you canceled, I'm like, well, I guess I can cold call now.
Yeah.
So I started cold calling, and then I went to the gym, and then I came back, and then people were calling me back, so I was dealing with that. I had to deal with some insurance shit for like an hour. So I was legitimately working the entire time until you got here. And even by the time you got here, I was running reports when I walked out.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, my girlfriend will literally be like, can you stop working?
The other thing is you love. It sounds like you love what you do.
Oh, dude, I've got a problem. Yeah, I love it. It's so fun.
What do you say? Because I mean, you took a leap and you kind of had the advantage where you kind of got to figure things out in high school. What do you tell everybody else that's sitting there and they're not necessarily doing something they want to do? Because I mean, the greatest way, and I think I've said this in a couple podcasts already, my own podcasts already, but people like to have this dream and they grab it and they like to put it on a put it in a box, put it up on the shelf. They'll grab it off the box some night, crack open a cold one, or pop on the TV or something. They'll open up this box, and they'll live this dream out, or this business idea, or whatever it is, for the night. And then they'll grab it, they'll put it back in the box, they'll put it back up on the shelf, go to bed, go back to work in the morning.
Figure it out, make it work.
Yeah, but
Dude, you have to also understand. My childhood was very up and down, very like, I don't know what's going on. So when I was really, really young, it was basically my mom and me, and she was a broke college teacher. That was like when Scott Walker came in, and then all of the like teachers got fucked in Wisconsin, like royally screwed over. So we had basically nothing. Then my dad came back, essentially grew a business. We were off well. So my childhood's like up and down, and there's like a whole host of other things going on. Mom died, like that sort of shit. So it's not like I had a ton of time. Like there were literally days in high school where, I shit you not, I was crying in the computer science lab of like, holy fuck, how am I going to make something work? And I was about ready to apply for factory work and drop out. Like that's how close I was. And so like high school is a really hard one in terms of timing for me. So it's not like I can even like people will have time. They just need that like that pain point to like do it. Because you can take the leap of faith and you will make it work. Like business is all built as you go. And so if you're willing to take the leap, push it, I think you'll be fine. But I'm also 20, so like what do I know?
But I mean, think about it. You've had different large life events that have happened in your life, and you still push through. There's a lot of people that would have given up.
Yeah, I mean that's very true. Like I think a lot of people, I see this a lot in like being in the college, a lot of people medicate themselves with like weed, alcohol, all that sort of stuff. And I'm very like if I got a vape in high school, I don't know what would have happened. Like I probably would be a crippling pot addict with a nicotine problem. Like, I'm just being honest. Like that's probably what would have happened. But I have a crippling caffeine addiction instead, so that works too.
He's gone to the bathroom 4 times since I've been here for this podcast.
It's only a pot and a half of coffee plus a Celsius. And a gum.
Yeah, but you make a good point, because I think a lot of people do that to distract themselves. If they were to actually take a hard look at their lives and get rid of the outside influences and just have to be there alone with themselves, it's a lot to handle for a lot of people. I mean, I always remember I'm a naturally energetic person. It might come off in the podcast, it might not, but I had a bartender tell me, she's like, put your shoulders down, because I'd be up talking to people, I'd be like, this and that, because I'm like ready to jump, like let's go. But you look at a lot of these people. I remember my parents got me drug tested when I was younger, because they're like, man, you're just like your energy, like it's like you're really energetic. Exactly, and I didn't know this, but I had severe allergies, so.
Me too.
Exactly.
Bro.
But that's the reason my eyes were dilated, because like they thought I was doing drugs, and I'm like, no, I don't do drugs. This is all natural high in life, And I go in there, and that's when I found out I had allergies, because my parents were like, we got to take a look and get you like, and I'm like, no, I'm not on drugs. Never have done them. But it's just kind of crazy. But I think you make a great point, and I think it's a lot of people. They want to give up, or they want to do this or that, but there's so much that you can do, and yeah.
You have 24 hours in the day, and you can work 20 of them.
You may have 24 hours.
I'm sorry, you have 25? Like, where do I get this extra hour?
Hell yeah.
No, but I think a lot of people just, like, haven't really put their nose to the grindstone and, like, figured it out.
Exactly. The thing, too, is be honest with yourself. If you like something, like it. If you don't like it, don't like it. Because there's a lot of people that lie to themselves and say, well, I was busy today. No, you weren't. I had a conversation with a client of mine. I have this conversation a lot. So I've had this conversation with multiple clients. They're like, man, I'm just not sure I have the time in the day, or I'm not sure I have the time this week. I said, well, okay, if you had to make time for an hour, if you had to make time for half an hour one day, could you? Well, yeah. If you had to make time for an hour, could you? If you had to make time for 2 hours and it was important, could you? Well, yeah. I said, okay, so you have time.
Yeah, exactly. Keyword is important. Like, fundamentally, it's all priorities. Like, how much do you cut?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are we willing to say no to? And I quote Alex Hormozy.
Okay,
yeah.
so we've been trying to figure out, so we were going to cover our last topic, but I forgot about it. I suggested a talking about craziest client or prospects we've had. But we're not going to cover it.
Yeah, let's not cover that.
There's a lot of crazy ones out there, and let me say, there's like we both have had differing experiences. Like I had one dude that told me that he was an archangel, and believed it. That's not even the craziest. There was one guy, I loved it. So back when I was doing phone sales for that company, I hopped on the phone, and I've told this story. I've told this story in person before, but never online or anything. But he goes, I finished up a phone call. I was taking notes on like, okay, I got to do this. I got to build out the system for him, whatever. And I got done with it, and I look across the aisle, and there's this guy, and my buddy's just looking at me, just looking me straight in the eyes with like a pale white look on his face. And I'm like, okay. So I log myself out, and I'm waiting for him to get off the call because he just looks like petrified. Like he doesn't know what to say. Like not scared, but he's just at a complete loss of words. And he gets off the call. He goes over and hangs up his phone, and he just doesn't say anything. And I said, what's up? His name's Louis. And he's like, a guy just bought 4 SM7B microphones. The same microphones that Joe Rogan uses on his podcast, mind you.
Yeah.
Like, so if somebody buys those, chances are they're doing a podcast. So he's like, yeah, he called this guy. He's like, hey, so what do you do? Oh, well, like, are you starting a podcast, these microphones? Yeah. No, I'm a film producer. No kidding. Well, what kind of movies do you do? Anything I might have heard of? And he just starts rattling off all of these different adult films. No. And that's what the guy was looking at, and he's just petrified because he thought it was a podcast. He was expecting that, and he goes into this guy's an adult film producer, and it was just the funniest thing ever.
Dude, that's that. Oh my god.
But yeah, it's definitely, I don't know. There's a lot of people out there. There's somebody for everybody.
That's very true. That's very, very true.
I don't know. It's the hard part though is what people don't realize is, as a sales guy, I can say that treat people the way you want to be treated, because you never know if you're going to need something down the line. Mm-hmm. And whether it be a service that you're like, yeah, I don't want this at all. Because then when you come back to the person, chances are they won't want to work with you. And you see that across every industry. It's not just real estate or anything.
I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot more about protecting reputation. So, let me explain.
Okay.
When people say no to someone, they don't want to work with them. A lot of times, it's because they don't want to be associated with it.
I disagree.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it's because people just don't want the service at the time, or it's because it's easier to say no than it is to sit through a sales pitch and you're not sure.
Okay, but then that's not a good salesperson.
Oh, 100%. But you look at a lot of people close off opportunities. And that's the thing that kills me, is because I'll take a call with somebody who's an accountant because you never know what's going to happen.
I usually, like, if I'm not going to accept a service, I say, listen, man, like, I'm going to be honest with you. It's not a good fit. I don't think I'm going to be able to work with you on this capacity. Here's what I'm going to do, though. Give you a number. I'm happy to connect. Like, I'm happy to, like, build a relationship. I just don't think your service makes sense for me at the time.
100%. But you got to think. You just gave the person a reason. You weren't like, no, get off the phone.
Right.
Or even get away from me in person.
Oh, my God.
You make a great point, though, because you salvage that thing. You salvage your... I mean, yeah, there's sometimes there's people that you don't want to associate with, but you made a good point. I like the way that you handled that.
Yeah. Like, the issue is, like, especially when you're doing cold, you come off as, like, buy for me. And so it kind of, like, you're naturally going to get the nose. Like, you know how Loom videos, like, you can see when people open them? Dude, I can't tell you how many people open the Loom videos. Like, I want to say 80% of people open the Loom videos, and, like, maybe 5% call me back. Mm-hmm. Like, people open them. I'll literally, I kid you not, I ring them 2 days later. Like, even if you didn't open it, I ring it to make sure. And I go like, no, I didn't get the email. It's like, I can see you opened it. I can literally see you opened it.
What's crazy, though, is people will try to act like that. And it's like, if you were just to sit down and have a conversation with them and say, listen, it doesn't make sense for me. I appreciate you taking the time, but I'm good. Mm-hmm. Those are the salesmen will walk out of that thing being like, you know what? That's a good freaking person. Mm-hmm. They will worship you even though you didn't even buy a damn thing from them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a better reputation to have than the guy that people don't want to call on because you're mean and crude or because you told the salesman off. Like in one of my last podcasts with a local entrepreneur, Brandon Zunker, he talks about.
I love Brandon.
Oh, Brandon's a hoot.
Dude, I've even had him on my podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
You haven't even had me on your podcast. I feel disappointed.
Dude, I'm just doing real estate now. That's the really sad part.
But no, I had Brandon on, and he's like, yeah, I walked into one place, and I said, hey, I just wanted to talk to the owner, whatever happened, and the owner's in the room, and he can see through the door that the owner's there, and the guy just pretends to pick up the phone when there's no call there, just to pretend he's on the phone, and Brandon's looking at this. There's different people like that, but no, at the end of the day, I think treat the salesman good because great example. People look at me when I negotiate, and it's crazy because I'll negotiate with different places for a better deal or a dealer agreement or something. That's so much easier to negotiate going in and just being nice, saying, "Yeah, can we work with this? Like, what can we do?" As opposed to saying, "Well, I found it cheaper over here. What can we do?" Working in sales, I can tell you that if you want somebody to give you a deal, be nice to them. You can either be nice or you can be a dick.
People will buy partially for personality.
Totally.
Like 100. Like that's why people buy from stories as well. Like people will buy from you. Like that.
Oh, but people also give you a discount. Like I had one dude that called up, and I still keep in touch with him. I just built out a website for him, and he's like, Tony, he's like, yeah, what can we work with on this? Knowing that every dollar that I give him is $1 out of my paycheck, I still gave him a discount because he was like, he was super nice, he was easygoing, he was easy to get along with. The people that called up and said, yeah, like, what's the best price you can do in this? This guy's doing this, and
Yep.
I was like, screw you. Like, I don't want to do anything for you.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Like, you need to be kind in sales. Period. End of story. Thank you.
As a consumer.
Actually, I find this really funny. So, one of the guys in one of my coaching groups, he's from Austria. Anyways, he speaks German. It's his native language. And so his big thing is sales. And so like I'll listen to some of his posts and I'm like, this sounds like so mean. And it's probably the nicest thing in the world you could ever say.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, I just find that so funny.
German, the hard part is when people translate things back to English, when there's so much lost, it gets very literal very quickly.
Dude, the LinkedIn, have you ever seen the translate on LinkedIn button?
No, I haven't.
So you can translate it to different, like whatever, if it's a text post. Dude, it's so wrong half the time. It's
really?
so good. So good.
Oh, man. I'll have to check that out.
You have to go on LinkedIn more.
I do have to go on LinkedIn more. I'm primarily, I guess, let's explain this. I'm a social media guy. I do a lot of work with marketing and Facebook and Instagram. You're a LinkedIn guy when it comes to social media. Why?
Oops.
We both social media market ourselves in different ways.
Yeah.
I'm more. What's the deal with LinkedIn?
Target market and intent. If you're on LinkedIn, you're not on LinkedIn for social media purposes. It's typically not personal, it's business.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it doesn't come off as shitty if you sell. Whereas like Facebook or Instagram, you kind of have to pray that they click the button. Whereas like LinkedIn, it's not. That's completely normal. And then the other advantage with LinkedIn is people that are already there. A lot of realtors are on there anyways, and I don't have much competition.
Okay.
So like when you look up real estate on LinkedIn, 9 times out of 10, I'll show up. Well, specifically if you go into posts, and I posted that day, like 9 times out of 10, I'll show up. Girlfriend.
Oh, no, because I thought that was cool because we were talking about social media. And you're like, man, if you haven't started marketing yourself on LinkedIn, you went like down the rabbit hole. Like the same thing you do with SEO.
I love LinkedIn. There's so many.
As a 20-year-old guy, that's just like.
Dude, when I tell people, like, if you look at my screen time, it's Google and LinkedIn. Like, it's so funny. If you look at my screen time, like, I'm probably on my laptop 10 hours a day working.
Yeah.
6 or 7 of that is Google. Like 2 of that is LinkedIn. Maybe a half hour is like other social medias.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That much LinkedIn.
That much LinkedIn.
Explain that though, because you said it's underpopulated. They're introducing a lot of new features.
Yes, that too, dude. It's fucking. I'm tired. But LinkedIn, dude, they're introducing the video feeds like TikTok style, so your reels are getting a shit ton of impressions. There's a ton of organic growth because there's like no one on LinkedIn posting. And so if you know what you're doing, you can like blow it away.
And let me say too, when Instagram first came out with Reels, because I was working with a couple businesses at the time doing their social media, and I was talking, I wasn't quite sure how to think of it, but I was working with this, I considered him a mentor. He was up in Duluth, Minnesota, but he grew a few pages up to like 600,000 and 1 million followers just because he was bored during COVID.
Oh yeah.
So when Reels came out, I was talking to him, and he's like, Reels, he's like the most underutilized thing. He's like, they're still trying to hash it out, and they don't know how to do the algorithm yet. So you get to take advantage of that because it boosts up a lot of posts that it shouldn't. So you get the opportunity to get more reach than you would normally get if it was refined. And that's where LinkedIn,
That's where LinkedIn's
how
at.
new it is.
The other big thing with LinkedIn that we're not even mentioning is, you know how on Instagram you used to be able to like DM whoever and it would always go to their inbox? It's exactly how it is on LinkedIn right now. If you have, caveat, if you have LinkedIn Premium.
Really?
So if you don't have LinkedIn Premium, you can only message people that you connect. But if you pay for LinkedIn Premium, you can message whoever.
I think that's one of the things I hate about Instagram now.
You can't DM whoever.
I used to DM people all the time, and I built such great relationships just off DMing people. Like, and I was doing artist relations for a brand. So I just got in touch with all these guys, and I'm like, we want to send you this, or we want you to do this.
Dude, I cold DM so many people. That's how I get a lot of podcast guests too, like bigger ones. Is I just DM them on LinkedIn.
And they show up.
And they show up. I think that's the other funny thing is like how Instagram used to be where you could cold DM whoever. So my coach, I messaged him years before working together, being like, can I build you a website, please? Yours is like mediocre. And like things like that, you can build relationships before. And so I think that ability is really, really big. Like if you DM me on LinkedIn, 9 times out of 10, I'll respond. Unless you're like trying to pitch something right away.
Yeah.
Like literally just connect, ask how your day is, and I'll respond.
That's cool.
Yeah, dude, LinkedIn's great. That's some really cool people.
That's got to be my New Year's resolution, is to do more work on that.
LinkedIn. Thank you.
But, well, hey, it's getting late, and we still got to go grab dinner yet. So,
Food time, baby. Woo.
well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know we've had one that was botched, and we've had a bunch of scheduling issues, but I appreciate you finally doing this.
We got it.
So,
Even though we're in my apartment.
so if people want to, if there's a realtor watching this, or there's people that have questions for you, or anybody that wants to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
LinkedIn.
Aside from LinkedIn,
YouTube.
what's your website?
dmrmedia.org.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the problem. It's set up as a landing page right now. Don't go there. Go to my LinkedIn or YouTube.
Perfect. Well, you heard it. Well, if you take a look at this is
Yeah.
this is the podcast, and check out some of our other episodes. But
It's
thanks
the
again,
only
man.
podcast.
It is the only podcast.
Exactly. Thank you.
See you, man.